Take a deep breath. That's what I tell myself. I tell myself to keep us hanging by the thread.
So, first of all, let's address the obvious. You can see my bra. It's a bralette in this video. For anyone who, opposes that, that's the entire point of bralettes, is so people can see them. That's why they have pretty designs. They are supposed to show through your shirt. So, moving on. Today I would like to build on my previous video on the pipeline protest of the Gidimt'en and Unist'Ot'en clans on the Wet'suwet'en traditional territory. Since that video, the hereditary chiefs allowed the temporary opening of the gates at Unist'Ot'en so as to preserve the safety and security of their clan members, considering the forceful and violent RCMP takeover of the Gidimt'en camp. The Unist'Ot'en camp is a reoccupation of their traditional Wet'suwet'en territory and has been in place since 2009, a 10-year time span in which they have successfully opposed 7 proposed pipelines. They weave embodiment of practices of mindfulness and respect together with direct action resistance to assert their indigenous title and rights. Now, the Unist'Ot'en resistance is different compared to mainstream pipeline protests because those are usually on the part of environmentalists who typically ignore the land question in general, who owns the land, which serves to just reinforce this colonial sovereignty over the land. Colonial ownership. It's just so counterproductive to the movement because even if they do win in that case and they stave off the pipeline right then, they're still reaffirming federal ownership of land as a sellable property. So they will face the issue again in the future, a time in which the industry and its state puppets will have formulated ways around the previous resistance methods. So rather than ignoring the whole fact of colonial dispossession and therefore normalizing it, traditional pipeline protests should really look to models such as the Unist'Ot'en that feature mindfulness and actually attack the land question. So how do pipeline protests in general become more effective in the long term? I'm here to tell you, by practicing mindfulness. Now, if you're particularly averse to mindfulness and meditation and all that yoga hoo-ha, just try to have an open mind. So these practices of respect and gratitude, which Robin Kimmerer in her book Braiding Sweetgrass calls cultures of gratitude, are common in many traditional indigenous ontologies and lifeways. These positions of mind function on a deep respect for all human and other than human beings, and an inherent belief and trust in the reciprocity of life and relationships. So, for example, this is the sun feeding the grass, which the rabbit eats, and then the rabbit is eaten by the fox, and then the fox dies, decomposes, and feeds the grass that the rabbit eats. Reciprocity. So there's no fear of death in this. That's really important to know. So resultant of these beliefs were land management practices that enhanced both human life and nature areas. In mindful meditation, we focus on the present moment, both its physical and emotional, psychological sensations. We release any preoccupation with the past and future, and with it, any fear of death, also known as existential fear. I do want to clarify here that I'm drawing on the work and conclusions of James Rowe, who's my professor, and the Senecan historian and activist, John Mohawk. So it is precisely this existential fear, this fear of death, that has driven Western nations to conquer, to sum it up, in search of the ideal life. They focus on this ideal life as an attainable thing so as to escape the fear of death. So this ideal life can be found in religion, scientific discoveries or knowledge, control of nature and the natural forces of life and death, in the discovery and colonization of new worlds, imagined utopias. This idealism is what allows us to plunder both peoples and lands in the name of personal gain, whether that is in the form of money, possessions, ownership, specifically land ownership, status, power. But when we turn away from this limiting fear of death, we inevitably adopt kindness and freedom into our lives. Embracing this trust in the universe is integral in many traditional indigenous cultures and ontologies, and is therefore integral to indigenous resurgence movements, such as the Unist'Ot'en, where they are reasserting their title to the lands they've occupied since time immemorial. In a separate vein, however, this mindfulness is also very important to social movements in general, especially ones that seek to protect the land, but should not ignore or fail to address the land question of whose land are they on, are they seeking to protect, and does that protection require denial of rights of the people to which it belongs. I would really love to talk about this more, and I will, but I just want to keep this video short, sweet, and concise. I'm trying a new thing. So I encourage you to start incorporating mindfulness practices such as meditation or expressing gratitude into your daily routines. Yes, daily. You would be surprised how many excuses you can think of to tell yourself that you don't have 10 minutes to spare, but I promise you, you do. You can carve it out of your YouTube watching time. I will also be uploading a video soon on how to meditate for beginners, because I'm a beginner myself. I've really only adopted the practice into my life in the past few months. But I would really love to help you, and we can start this journey together. I hope you have a great week. Stand with the Unist'Ot'En. Stay on the news. I will also be updating you. So, yeah. Bye.
Dream. Feel like Billy cause I'm getting green. Cash rules motherfucking everything. Me and you ain't the same, we in a different league. You a fool for even trying to compete with